Updates.
But yeah, so Dre, I know that you have a really good story, and then I have some more good stories. What's the next one you would like to talk about?
Okay, so like Brittany was saying, we were actually hanging out the other day, and of course we were just talking about scary stories, ghosts, UFOs, all that kind of funness. And we got more into talking about, like, the spiritual worlds, and, like, do we really believe in spirits? Is there something beyond the world that we can't see?
What's reality?
What is life? So, that's when I kind of thought about my mom, because my mom has some pretty crazy stories out there, that she shared with me. And I guess you could say, like, in Peru, there's a lot more, like, spirituality when it comes in, like, the culture and, like, connecting with your family and your ancestors and all that kind of stuff. So the story that I shared with Brittany is actually about my great-grandmother, my grandmother's mom. Unfortunately, she got sick and passed away when my family, like, my brother, my parents had already come here, and we couldn't at that point afford to go back to Peru, right? But growing up, of course, like, my mom is the oldest of her siblings, so she was very close to her grandmother. And because of that, when she was in the hospital, and she was, like, I believe it was, like, a day or two before she finally passed away, she let my aunt know, my mom's sister, that she was actually trying to get my mom's attention, like, during that time, you know, to say, like, goodbye to her, because she was pretty conscious about what was going on. But the creepy thing about it is that at the time, my mom was cleaning houses. Like, that's what she would do, like, from morning to night, cleaning houses in Westport and, like, these fancy rich houses, right? And my great-grandmother was literally able to, like, describe to the T the houses that my mom was in. You know, and, like, the way she told my aunt is, like, oh my god, you know, like, Ada, I was trying to get her attention, like, I was trying to let her know that, like, I miss her and I love her, and, like, you know, everything's gonna be okay, you know, all that stuff, and literally described, like, what my mom was wearing that day, how she was cleaning, how she was, like, trying to get everything done as fast as she possibly could, and because of that, like, no matter what my great-grandmother did, she couldn't get her attention to, you know, say goodbye. And when my aunt finally told this to my mom, you know, my mom obviously started crying because she ultimately felt bad that she wasn't, you know, being more connected with her or more paying attention. But that's definitely one of the wildest stories I've ever, you know,
I wish your mom was here to be
I know, I wish my mom was here.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It's pretty crazy. And, you know, it's really awesome, like, this whole idea of, like, still being connected to your family that way, because that's, like, a strong fucking bond.
Connection is strong, yeah.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So how do you guys explain it? How was she able to see all of that? How could she describe my mom to the T, being in a whole other side of the world, you know, per United States?
Maybe your mom, like, didn't call or anything, like, hey, I'm wearing a white shirt.
As far as I know, that conversation was not done, but
your mom kept out the juicy
details.
I did not.
She took pictures and sent it.
I did not just call her.
No, that was before selfies. Much longer before all that.
That's so crazy.
But yeah,
I don't know. This world's really weird. Like, I think that's all we can really get out of that story is that the world's weird, and maybe it's like,
everyone's connected in some way.
But then I think what we were talking about, like, after that was, like, I think, like, lucid dreaming and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, lucid dreaming is kind of weird, and it's, like, because you can literally, like, look at yourself while you're sleeping. You can, like, teach yourself to fly while you're sleeping, and you can do all these things, like, have a physical experience without your body. So, I don't know. It's, like...
But you have to, like, wake up from your dreams every day and just, like, start writing everything down and, like, keeping track of...
I think you can do it,
what's
like...
going on, and...
Woo! Is that the ghost with tacos?
That was a sign right there, guys.
So, I don't know. Yeah, I think you can do lucid dreaming in multiple, like, kind of different ways. But that's how I've, like, done it. I've actually, like, learned to control my dream for a little bit and stuff like that. But it is really cool. It's so strange that your grandma kind of just, like, knew all of that information. It kind of reminds me of, like, Nikola Tesla's story. Have you ever heard of Nikola Tesla, like, seeing his mom?
No, I haven't heard of that story, but I know of him.
Oh, well, okay, so Nikola Tesla is, like, amazing, and I'll just kind of, like, say this story really quick, because it's a quick story, and it kind of backs up the story that, like, your mom kind of, like, experienced, because it's the same exact thing that, like, Nikola Tesla actually experienced. Okay. I studied Nikola Tesla for a really long time, fascinating man, but he's, like, all about, like, physics and all of that kind of stuff, and I started to study, like, quantum physics and everything. Basically, at the end of the day, he's a typical one of those engineers, is that the word for it? Scientists, everything like that. Pretty much does not believe in spirits, like, at all. He wrote in his book that he tried so hard to prove that, spirits were real, but he just, like, said it was so baloney. But he also said that spirituality was also baloney, and psychology was actually baloney as well, too. So, spirituality and psychology, ghost baloney. He was like, BS.
We're all baloney.
This world is nothing. So, he actually has a really interesting story. He said that the only experience that he's ever had with ghosts is actually... he knew when his mom passed, he would always get a sign from her. She would always make sure that, like, she gave a sign, and he just, like, knew this. And he said that he was up all night one night. He just could not go to sleep that night. And that's when he was, like, having trouble sleeping because his just dreams were, like, crazy, vivid, and everything like that. He's a fascinating man, especially if you kind of like to talk about spirituality and stuff like that. But he stayed up so late until, like, the early morning time, and then finally he was, like, heading nodding in and off, like, kind of like in and out of sleep. And then finally he saw his mother kind of just show up at the end of his bed in kind of like a spirit form, and she kind of just, like, walked by looking at him and then just disappeared into the air. And there were clouds everywhere around her, and he said that they were kind of playing, there were, like, angels around her playing music and instruments. And he said that he knew that was when she died. And then he ended up falling asleep, and he woke up the next morning and found out that his mom died that night. So he always said, I know that my mother's gonna, like, give me a sign, and that's when he saw it. But he goes back to boiling it down to, it's just something with the eyes and the brain and something like that. And
like a trick?
Pretty much. He said he saw, like, a painting of an artist made, and it was similar to that, and he said that's the only reason why. So he basically said, no, it's not spirits. But it sounds a lot like your mother's kind of, like, story of, like, showing up, and, like, they just knew that there was going to be a sign and everything like that. I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's a lot to it, but unfortunately we can't, like, scientifically prove anything yet. But
maybe we don't need science anymore, guys. It's just
I could never agree with that. Don't put me in the same. That's baloney.
Alright, man.
I don't know. Maybe we'll come across it in the future, but it's a thing. I believe it. But actually, on the subject of sleep, I know in other podcasts we brought up the whole idea of sleep paralysis.
Yeah, thanks, Trey.
Creepy.
If nobody remembers that, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was, like, going to sleep one night, and it was so crazy. There was, like, a woman, like, in my room, and I was like, and she was angry, and she just ran right up to me, like, ready to kind of, like, choke me, and then I jumped out of bed. And then Trey was like, oh my god, that's sleep paralysis.
That's
and I was like,
hag.
Oh, and I didn't sleep for like 2 weeks.
And the reason why
I still sleep with the lights on. Thanks, Trey.
Oh my god.
What?
So the reason why
She's
I knew
not
that.
gonna give me tacos. That's not a taco lady.
Jesus Christ. So the reason why I knew that is because my boyfriend has beautiful stories on the subject of sleep paralysis. And he is our special guest this week.
Special ghost.
He's our special ghost.
Yes.
He's the ghost of the week.
So we're just gonna, like, we're doing it now? We're just making him talk now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, let's go, Claudia.
So here's Claudio. Gonna share.
Go that way.